I'm Bob Barsha. Welcome to Estoril, where Brazilian Ayrton Senna leads arch-rival Alain Prost of France by just 16 points for the World Championship, and there's nothing Senna would like better than to administer a knockout punch here in what is essentially his homeland, Portugal. With me, as usual, regular analyst David Hobbs and John Bizignano, who'll be reporting to the pit shortly. David, I know you like Ferrari here.
Well, I do, Bob. At two other circuits this year, Paul Ricard in France and Silverstone, both handling circuits. The Ferraris have been absolutely tremendous, with Mansell being on the pole at both those places as well. And I think that although there's a couple of substantial straights here in Estoril, there are some corner complexes which are really going to play into the Ferrari's hands. And I just think it's going to be their day today. But there's an awful lot can happen between the green light and the checkered flag.
As we certainly learned last year, particularly Nigel Mansell reversing in the pits. John, what do you expect in the pits this year?
Well, Bob, I've always said that the Portuguese pits are the most active on the whole championship trail. Virtually every team, every car is planning to stop for some fresh tires. The competition has been fierce here all weekend long, but Nigel Mansell, Bob, he's the one who wants to win. He's had a disastrous 1990 season, but here he has shown the way in Portugal by grabbing pole position and being fastest in this morning's warm-up. A lot of pit activity and a great race.
In fact, Nigel Mansell has been very coy about whether or not he will follow instructions and give the win to teammate Alain Prost, should it come to that. It should be a great race. Just a few miles from the circuit here at Estoril is the Atlantic Ocean coastline, dotted with reminders of the days when the Portuguese navies ruled the seas and Portugal was the great colonizer of the world. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Portugal is brought to you by Quaker State, the big green light in round 13 of the World Championship. Stay with us. Back at the Autodromo do Estoril in Estoril, Portugal for round 13 of the Formula One World Championship. Bob Barsha and David Hobbs with you. Not the traditional 26, but 25 cars have rolled to the starting grid, and therein lies the story as we take a look at the starting lineup for the 1990 Grand Prix of Brazil. On the pole for the third time this year, 1.9 seconds under the track record, Nigel Mansell of Great Britain, 0.7 of a second fastest in the morning warm-up. Next to him, Alain Prost of France, also in a Ferrari, the only Ferrari front row in 37 races going back to 1988. Row 2 will be Ayrton Senna of Brazil in the McLaren Honda, 44 1/1000ths of a second, cover the top three cars. Next to him, teammate Gerhard Berger of Austria in the second McLaren. Row 3 will be Riccardo Patrese of Italy in the Williams Renault, next to Nelson Piquet of Brazil in the Benetton, among the fastest cars in the straight line this weekend. Row 4 will be Terry Boutsen of Belgium in the Williams, next to Jean Alesi of France in the Tyrrell. Of course, he will be going to Ferrari next year. Row 5 will be Sandro Nannini of Italy in the Benetton, and a time that would have put him on the pole last year. Next to him, Eric Bernard of France in the Larousse. Row 6 will be Aguri Suzuki of Japan in the Larousse. A new father is young Aguri. Next to him, Ivan Capelli of Italy in a Leighton House car. Row 7 will be Emanuele Pirro of Italy, who has been told he will not be driving for Dallara next year. Next to him on row 7, Maurizio Gugelmin of Brazil in a Leighton House, suffering from a case of the flu this weekend. Row 8 will be Martin Donnelly of Great Britain in the Lotus, 6th fastest in the morning warm-up. They expect big things from him today. Next to him, Pierluigi Martini of Italy in the Minardi. Row 9 will be Alex Caffi of Italy in the Arrows, suffering from a pinched nerve in his back due to the bottoming of the car on this racetrack. Next to him, Andrea De Cesaris of Italy in the Dallara. Row 10 will be Michele Alboreto of Italy in the Arrows. Next to him was to have been Satoru Nakajima of Japan in the Tyrrell, but Nakajima, suffering from a terrible case of the flu, crashed heavily in the morning warm-up. He is out. Next to Alboreto, therefore, will be Philippe Bayot of France in the Ligier. Inside the next row will be Derek Warwick of Great Britain in the Lotus, next to Nicola Larini of Italy in the Ligier, Stefano Modena of Italy in the Brabham, and Yannick Dalmas of France in the AGS on the next row, and finally David Brabham of Australia in the Brabham Judd. Those who missed the cut include Olivier Griard of France in the Osella. That team complained bitterly that they were not getting frontline tires from their Pirelli distributor. Paolo Barilla of Italy failed to make the race for Minardi. Neither the Gabriele Tarquini of Italy in the AGS or Bertrand Gachot of Belgium in the Coloni. And those who failed to clear Friday morning's pre-qualifying include Roberto Moreno of Brazil and Claudia Langes of Italy in the Eurobroom cars and Bruno Giacomelli of Italy in the Life Machine. Let's take a look at our onboard cameras. That is Derek Warwick, with an extra pile of marketing materials carried with him on the Lotus today. His teammate Martin Donnelly will also be carrying an onboard camera. We're looking out the back of new father Aguri Suzuki's LaRousse car. We'll have a great look at the way the rear suspension works on that machine. The weather about 78 degrees, a strong 15-mile-an-hour breeze blowing in the drivers' faces here on the front straightaway. Nigel Mansell is on the pole in the Ferrari to your right. To the left is Alain Prost. The McLarens are behind them. And once again, once the race is underway, we will allow you to experience the sights and the sounds of the first lap here at the Grand Prix of Portugal. Cars creeping off the right-hand clean line of the racetrack to take their position.
Nigel went incredibly slowly on that pace lap. I'm sure he didn't want to have a long wait, but it all seems to have gone wrong because he still had a long wait on the grid because he went very slowly, I'm sure, to try and reduce his waiting time in that pole position. There you see the green flag.
Turn it up and enjoy the first lap here at Portugal.
I think Nigel there paid the penalty of being too greedy. He tried to make sure his teammate didn't get through.
Andre de Cesaris into the gravel pits. And that move off the starting line is one Nigel Mansell is going to remember for a long time. Here is a replay of what happened to Andre de Cesaris. A second gear corner here, very slow. Let's take another look at what happened at the start.
And Nigel just moves over on his teammate and really moves over. Almost has him in the guardrail. I mean, you can't get much closer than that. Prost had to back off. Meanwhile, the two McLarens streaked through the open gap. And, of course, Prost got really left out in the cold.
It couldn't have gone any worse on the first lap for the Ferrari team. It is Ayrton Senna, followed by Gerhard Berger, whose role now will no doubt be that of blocking back, with Nigel Mansell looming up behind, followed by a good start for Nelson Piquet, and then Alain Prost. Boy, shades of a couple of years ago when Senna and Prost, both driving for McLaren, had their near coming together on the front straight.
I tell you what, there's going to be some very hard words in that Ferrari camp after that little schmozzle, because that was totally uncalled for, and at this early stage in the race, I mean... Of course, he probably learnt that trick from Gerhard Berger, if you remember, did it 3 times at Spa, exactly the same move.
A look at
Prost getting a bit fed up with these people nailing him to the guardrail at the start, I think.
Particularly in Portugal, where it's happened to him twice now.
If you watch closely on this video, as we have some of these nice head-on shots the Portuguese cameras are giving us, I think you'll get the feeling of what I've been feeling all weekend, of just how smooth the Ferraris look compared to the McLarens. Putting away just a little bit there.
You're on board with Derek Warwick in the Lotus car.
We're coming to this right-left complex. Very difficult here. You've got to brake and change down. Now they're coming into what is one of the worst corners for 4 seconds. You go through here, and these cars through here develop about 3.5 to 4 Gs. 4 times the force of gravity. Just imagine hanging a weight of about 18 pounds on the side of your head. That's how it feels for these drivers. You can hear Derek's car touching the track. Martin Donnelly just a little bit ahead of his teammate, I think. Yes.
Donnelly running in 12th. Make that, yes, 12th position right now.
Donnelly went very well in the morning warm-up on full tanks, and on his tyre combination for this afternoon, he was 6th fastest.
I made the point that he was 6th fastest, and that is a great improvement over what we've been getting lately from the Lotus cars, so that seemed to me to be pretty newsworthy.
We're actually letting the Benetton get rather gone here. That car lying in 4th spot there of course, is Nelson Piquet in the Benetton, the V8 engine car, which has gone awfully well all weekend. He has consistently out-practiced and out-qualified his teammate Nannini, who's been on such a roll these last few races. And so Piquet really getting on with the job this afternoon, leading, of course, at the moment, Alan Prost in the Ferrari.
Let's get a comment from the pit lane quickly from John Bisignano.
Bob and David, one of the problems that the Ferraris are going to have in the opening laps of this race is the fact that they're some 60 pounds heavier than the other cars starting up front. They had to take on a full 10 extra gallons to feed their V12 motor. So look for them pulling up here very soon as some of that lighter load fuel-wise begins to burn away.
That, of course, is an extremely good point. We have a number of engine configurations, and John Barnard and Ford really feel that the V8 has got great promise, because although it be hard to extract exactly the same sort of horsepower that you can get from the V12, the 12-cylinder engines do tend to use a bit more fuel, and the start line weight is up.
John Barnard's father passed away last week, but the Benetton chief designer is here this weekend watching over his charges. There's the third-place Ferrari, the red number 2 of Nigel Mansell, who was no doubt ruining his attempted move against his teammate at the start that nearly took them both out of the race and allowed the McLarens to squeak through first and second.
Still a long way to go, of course, and Nigel's not letting Gerhard Berger get away from him at all. But as you said earlier on, Gerhard Berger's main job now, I'm sure, is going to be to try and block anybody else from getting to grip with Senna. But it's going to be difficult.
There you see Yannick Dalmas, who has parked his AGS by the side of the road. He will not be allowed to push start it, and so the Frenchman's day is done. Our cut pictures are coming to you courtesy of RTP Network here in Portugal. Ayrton Senna is your leader and will return to Portugal.
Aguri Suzuki's had a good weekend here in the Lamborghini engine Larousse, and of course they're going to lose that Lamborghini engine next year. There you see Nigel making serious inroads on Gerhard Berger through this twisty section at the end of turn 1 and into turn 2, 3 and 4 there. A very quick right-hand flick there in 6th gear, up to about 190 miles an hour as they go hard on the brakes into this long, long left-hander. Very, very tough track this on the driver. A lot of G-loading, both directions.
Early pit stop, Derek Warwick's car. Problems for the Lotus. Off comes the engine hood. John Bisignano is there.
Derek Warwick came into the pits with the engine revving very high. He was at least at almost maximum RPM. It sounded like a stuck throttle to me. They have taken the back of the engine cover off, and they are looking at the throttle and the fuel injection mechanisms. The throttle cable is definitely stuck. We can see it almost pinched and bound. They are working on it furiously to try and get the Brit back into this race.
Tough luck on Derek.
There you see Ricardo Patrese, the blue, yellow, and white Williams coming into view. But this is your leader, Ayrton Senna. The track is 2.7 miles around with 11 turns, and the drivers, to a man, love it. It is fast, it is sweeping. They're put under tremendous physical stretches of high G-forces, as David described earlier, but they just love this racetrack. The one fault, they say, it is very bumpy.
We were down at turn 1 the other day in practice, and boy, oh boy, when those cars hit right at the apex of turn 1, everybody's car was just shaking them around like a rag doll. And of course, it's the team that finds the best compromise of springing and damping that is going to do well here. And Ferrari definitely seem to have got that crack. Their cars look smooth.
Senna, as we mentioned, comes in with a 16-point lead over Alain Prost. He has scored in 10 events this year. Should he win or score in the points today, it will become his 11th point scoring finish. And from here on out in the 1990 season, he will have to begin dropping points. You can only count your 11 best finishes, and as a result, Ayrton Senna, because his worst point-scoring finish this year has been a 3rd place, will have to finish 1st or 2nd in the final 3 races of this season, Spain, Japan, and Australia, in order to garner any more points.
Mansell getting right up with Berger now, and Prost has also made a lot of ground up on Piquet.
Mansell took a look to the inside. This is the corner where he and Senna had their celebrated coming together last year. The result was an unprecedented suspension of Nigel Mansell from next week's race in Spain.
Ferrari looks quick to me to that long rising right-hander there. Second gear, they go up to fourth, then back to third for that left-hander. Then up to the gearbox here. This one's taken flat out in fifth, up to sixth as soon as they leave it. As you can see, the car's bumping around pretty much on braking into this corner.
Just where the pavement changes there is where the drivers get hard on the brakes and drop at least 3 gears. Of course, the Ferrari works with a semi-automatic 7-speed gearbox. They drop 4.
And that, of course, helps them on acceleration as you rev these engines higher and higher and higher, and the power band moves up and also gets narrower. The 7 gears of the Ferrari is a definite advantage over the 6. Of course, there comes a point of no return when the driver's shifting gear all the time. If you had a 12-speed gearbox, it might do nice splits, but it'd be damned hard work, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't do much for the blister on your palm. Down to the start-finish stripe comes Ayrton Senna of Brazil, seeking his 7th win of the season. Here is Gerhard Berger, a man who would like to get a win of his own. He has yet to win for the McLaren team in 1990.
As, of course, has Nigel in the Ferrari. There's a man who, at the beginning of this race, we were speculating on would he let Prost through at the end of the race. We have yet to see whether that will materialize, but it's going to be a very tough decision for him to make, because I know he dearly wants to win a race. In theory, this being the end of his Formula 1 career, although the rumours are stronger and stronger that next year he will in fact drive for Williams.
Nigel addressed that point at a press conference, said he has had more than a dozen very attractive offers from both sides of the Atlantic to go racing next year. Now he says, I do not know what I'll do. There is Derek Warwick walking out the back of the Lotus garage. Big disappointment for Derek. You're on board now with his teammate, Martin Donnelly.
Set right-hand flick to the 6th. That's a Guri Suzuki. Both these cars have got the V12 engine.
Won't have them next year, though. Next year, the Lamborghini goes to a new team owned by Italian businessman Carlo Petruccio, and they will also be in the Ligets next year, but only for 1 season, before Ligier will have Renault engines, sharing those power plants with the Williams team. Off they sweep into turn 11. 4 Gs of lateral force on these drivers. It's a wonder they don't black out. We'll return to Portugal in a moment.
Becomes part of our calendar. We have to race.
For sure, it will take a little bit of time to adapt and get to know the new techniques.
I don't know. You know, it's too new.
I think that can give you the level of the preparation of our FISA technical committee, because thinking that car can run in the oval track is crazy.
I never heard this before. For the first time. I don't know what to answer.
If you have a question you'd like us to ask a Formula 1 to Formula 1, drop us a line. Ayrton Senna is your leader with 10 laps complete of a scheduled 71 here in Portugal, and he is slowly drawing away from this battle for second between his teammate Gerhard Berger of Austria and the red number 2 Ferrari of Nigel Mansell. And look at the gap now back to Nelson Piquet and Alain Prost.
That's the significant thing. Nelson Piquet is now 4.5 seconds behind this battling trio, and of course behind Nelson Piquet is still Alain Prost. So Alain Prost, of course, has got a great race reputation for coming back in the race, so certainly all is not lost at 10 laps, but he won't be too happy at seeing the rest of the field drive off in front of him. So he's obviously having a lot of difficulty in getting around Nelson Piquet. But the V8 engine, that Ford V8, going extremely well on these long straights, but of course the Barnard handling coming into his own on long corners like this. But look at that, Ferrari up on the inside. Oh, no.
Close moment there. Alain Prost had a notion on the inside, but Piquet shut the door. In his vast experience, a career that spans 3 world championships, Nelson Piquet has not won here in Estoril. The race has been held here at Estoril only since 1984. The winners, Prost, Senna, Mansell, Prost, and Berger. There is Nigel Mansell, no doubt still fuming. He attempted to step in front of his teammate, Prost, off the green light at the start of this race. All he managed to do was put them both along the pit wall and allow the McLarens of Senna and Berger to squeeze by on the outside and take control of the race.
Looks like the two Williams cars of Patrese and Boutsen are in fact catching up with these two now. The Ferrari, very impressive through these long, fast corners, and of course some of that still goes back to John Barnard's original designing of this car, but I think a lot of the credit is also due to the American engineer that of course went with Alan Prost this year, Steve Nichols, who left McLaren with Prost and went to Ferrari.
And who is not here in Portugal for some reason. So tongues are wagging about where American designer Steve Nichols is this weekend. Why he is not with the Ferrari team. No one's talking.
Could be taking a holiday.
Could be working on the new design for the Ferrari.
New car too, yeah.
If you're a fan, you know that the international governing body, the FISA, under mercurial Frenchman Jean-Marie Vallès, has announced new rules will come into effect as of the third race of the year in Imola, Italy next year, requiring complete flat bottoms on these cars, much smaller wings, in a sense changing the entire concept of the Formula One car. This, while most teams have already designed and or built their cars for next year.
And so another 80 pounds heavier.
All of the designers are shaking their heads over the latest contretemps in Formula One. John, what do you think?
Well, I think Steve Nichols, the mystery of Steve Nichols missing here is solved at the moment. The Ferrari people have been asked so many times that they decided to tell everybody and not make it such a big deal. He is testing in the test track at the Ferrari factory in Italy. The question is, now, what is he testing? Ferrari very serious about the remaining 3 races, and so serious that they took their #1 engineer and put him on a Grand Prix weekend in a very disciplined testing session back at the factory.
Thanks for clearing that up, John. I hope you'll see some surprises from Ferrari with 3 races to go this year, and that you'll join us for all of them in in Spain next week, in Japan in October, and in Australia in November to wind up the 1990 season. It has been an eventful one. Here's the braking area for that very tight turn 6, which opens out slightly. It's an increasing radius turn, and so the drivers try to get on the accelerator as soon as they can.
Short shift from second to third almost immediately as they go into the corner, and then right on the exit they're up to 4th. So as they exit the corner, they're very fast. That looks like Donnelly in.
Martin Donnelly with the second Lotus. What's going on, John?
Well, the Lotus boys having a terrible problem with the engines this weekend. First of all, Derek Warwick out with the stuck throttle cable. Now Donnelly came in with maybe one of the worst misfires I have ever heard in my life. They're checking the black box and going through all the spark plugs. But he came in with absolutely a devastating misfire. They're working on it as fast as they can, but they have some problems to solve.
So the Lotus team troubles continue. They are losing their sponsor this year. They are losing their engines this year. Things just don't get better for the Lotus team. One of the proud names in Formula One history, founded by the late Colin Chapman. Their drivers over the years have included some of the best in their sport, including Nigel Mansell, who played a key role on this racetrack back in 1984. He was running second to Alain Prost, who needed to win and needed his McLaren teammate Niki Lauda to do badly in order that Prost might win the World Championship. Mansell dropped out driving for Lotus. Lauda moved up, and Alain Prost lost to his teammate in the title chase by 1/2 of a point.
Well, Alain Prost has now got around Nelson Piquet and has taken away that 4th spot, so it'll be interesting to see if he can catch up with this trio battling it out for the lead, although Senna himself has put a little bit of daylight between himself and Berger.
We are working lap number 16 of 71. Fast lap belongs to Gerhard Berger. We'll be back in a moment. The Formula One Grand Prix of Portugal. We're back in Portugal, working lap number 27, and it has been a dramatic one for this man, Nigel Mansell. Moments ago, Mansell overcooked it going into the uphill turn number 3, make it, and slid wide on the racetrack, allowing his teammate Alain Prost through.
As you can see, Alain Prost himself, his car drifting perfectly, but that now sets him up right behind Gerhard Berger, and I'll be amazed if Mansell doesn't pay a quick visit to the pits. I thought he'd be in on this lap for tyres, actually. I don't think he did, but these two guys now under very strong pressure from Alain Prost, who is so good. We hear all the time, you know, why has Alain Prost won 4 races and I haven't won any? And unfortunately, you just saw one of the reasons right there, that Prost makes so few mistakes.
Neither does the man on the point there, Ayrton Senna. There you see Nelson Piquet in for a pit stop with the Benetton team. Clear out, smoke the tires, long strips of rubber. Was that B rubber or C rubber, David?
I couldn't quite see from here on top.
John is in the pits. Maybe he could tell us. John?
Ricardo Patrese came in the pits. He stopped in the stopping area absolutely sideways. They had to restart the car. It has now come to life. They also lost one of the huge nuts that hold on the wheel. There's only one very big nut that holds on this wheel. It is getting very exciting down here. Patrese is out of the pits. Piquet was in. All 4 tires changed very quickly, but his brakes were smoking tremendously. I've never seen so much smoke coming out of a set of brakes. Ferrari set, McLaren set. We're ready to tell you what happens as soon as it happens. Ferrari coming in now.
Coming at you, John. One of the Ferraris is coming in. I believe it's Mansell. Yes, it is. Nigel Mansell. Let's see if he can find his pit this year.
Nigel Mansell in the V12 Ferrari comes in perfectly. No overshooting this year. A little bit of trouble on the left rear. Right rear now. Oh, my gosh. The RPMs are up in the engine. Just blew me out of here. My Lord, he is out of here. As you said, David, he was losing control out on the track, but he has a nice fresh set of C compound Goodyears to bring him around now.
I wondered if the team might be a little bit tardy in changing his tires, but they certainly weren't. They gave Nigel every bit of help they could there. That was a very quick stop, but as you said, the revs on that engine when he left the pit must have been absolutely excruciating.
These cars are sonorous. They do make a distinctive note when they go by. If you don't bring earplugs to a Formula One race, you will bleed from the ears. Meanwhile, Alain Prost moving up now on Gerhard Berger for second place behind Ayrton Senna.
It is only a matter of time, and of course we'll probably find out afterwards that Prost had some super hard compound tire and was nursing it very carefully and won't stop and will carry on and win by about 2 laps. Oops.
That would be Senna is coming in. The McLaren is coming in. John, be ready for the leader in the World Championship.
Ayrton Senna has reached the end of the pit lane. He is coming in, pulling into the stopping area. The perfect people of McLaren are all set. The car goes up on the air jacks. They're having a little bit of problem with the left rear, nothing serious. Ayrton Senna in a miraculous stop. The boys from McLaren have been practicing this all weekend long, and I think it just paid off.
Yeah, it certainly did for Alain Prost, who has gotten by Gerhard Berger and into the lead in this race. And Gerhard Berger fishtailing wildly behind. He is losing ground with every turn here in Portugal.
And you can see just...
Here is another look at the pass on the front straightaway at about 195 miles an hour. Look how close together they get.
Berger just trying to move over there to make Prost think again. Prost just kept his foot right in it. Pulled away. Now this sort of complex coming up is where the Ferrari is so good.
Sharp right-hand flick, then an immediate flick back to the left, and hard on the gas for the sweeping right-hander, turn 11, that is so important because it leads on to the high-speed front straightaway.
If you can pick up a couple of 100 RPM through there, you've just got that 200 RPM all the way down the straight, and Prost himself comes in.
We're ready for the second Ferrari pit. He got sideways as well. Here comes Alain Prost, John.
Prost coming into the pits very quickly, nearly had himself in the guardrail.
The yellow shirts of Ferrari are all around this red car. They are doing all 4 tires, of course. RPM not quite as high as Mansell. Again, a little bit of problem with the left rear. I don't know why almost every car is having problem with the left rear. That was where all the smoke was coming out of the brakes on Piquet's car. David, is there any kind of a reason why this left rear would be hotter than everyone else? Every car that has stopped has had a small delay on the left rear with huge brake smoke coming out.
Well, of course, the left rear tire takes a tremendous pounding around here on these long right-hand corners, which could conceivably warm up the wheel bearings a lot more on that wheel.
Gerhard Berger inherits the lead, the defending champion in this race. He won it last year for Ferrari. Now on lap number 31, he is the leader. And now he is subject to the mixed blessing of being the leader, but being second to your teammate. Oh, Terry Boutsen's William is blown. Tough break for Terry, who wants so badly to be back with this team next year, but thus far no commitment. Now Berger will pit, and he has a slower car in front of him in the pit lane. Lots of action in the pits. Watch out, John. Here comes 3 of them.
There's got enough room down here for one of them, but the two go by. Gerhard Berger from Austria in the pits. McLaren being very precise in what they're doing. Not too much of a rush. Gerhard Berger tearing off a couple of his helmet shields. Well, we survived it, folks. We had 6 pit stops in about 6 minutes, and everyone is left standing.
Except the Williams of Terry Boutsen, which is parked.
We weren't timing that, but that certainly looked to be the quickest stop of the lot to me.
Exactly. And now this man is back out front. Ayrton Senna, the points leader by 16 coming in. Should he win today, he will not only fatten his lead in the World Championship. In fact, if he wins today and Alain Prost does not score points, Prost will have to win the final 3 races of this year and have Senna not score points in all 3 in order to prevent Senna from taking his 2nd World Championship in 3 years. He will also score his 27th career Formula One win, tying Jackie Stewart. We'll be back to Portugal in a moment. Down to the start-finish line at the Autódromo do Estoril in Portugal to complete lap number 38. Nigel Mansell dives to the inside, but he doesn't have enough time to pass Ayrton Senna.
Catching up with Gugelmin here, who could play a key factor in this race. He's obviously going to slow Senna up a bit.
Mansell looks to the inside again as Senna dodges around Gugelmin.
Gugelmin gave them plenty of room there, actually. He was very good about it.
Like Satoru Nakajima, Maurizio Gugelmin right there has been suffering from the flu as well, as has David Hobbs here in the booth with me. A fact that pleases me none too well.
No. How are you feeling, Bob?
Worse by the minute. What a great race we are watching. Nigel Mansell, after a horrible miscue at the starting line that nearly took himself and Ferrari teammate Alain Prost out of the race. To the left of your screen, Ron Dennis, team manager. A bit of an enigmatic figure in his own right. With
team manager for McLaren.
Correct.
Yeah. Looking very enigmatic there.
Just generic team manager. Yeah. Flashing through the quick right and left-handers. The turn 9 and 10 complex.
Senna's pulled out a lot there for some reason or other. Nigel slowed up. This long key corner. Maybe Nigel's lying back to lull Senna into a full sense of security.
Letting his tires breathe a little bit before he commences the assault once again. 1 second, the gap between Senna and Mansell at the start-finish line to complete lap 39. More lap traffic. One of the LaRousse cars being passed by this battle for the lead. Senna and Mansell. After nearly taking Alain Prost out of the race, certainly Mansell could help his case with the Tifosi, the great Ferrari fans, and with the Italian media if he can come back and subdue Ayrton Senna and allow Alain Prost to close up a little bit in the points.
There you see Berger just coming to the picture. Just behind him, although still nearly 4 seconds behind him, is Alain Prost. But Alain Prost, you just can never, ever count him out. And he may be just running the race exactly how he wants it. But obviously there comes a point when you're coming up to lap 40 on a 71-lap race that you've got to start thinking about moving up.
We talked about that incident at the first corner last year that led to so much controversy. This is it. Mansell to the inside. Senna takes the corner in normal fashion, collides with the Ferrari of Mansell. The two cars swept off to the track, and into one of the great controversies of the 1989 Formula One season. Of course, it all seemed a little academic when Senna and his teammate Alain Prost collided in the Japanese Grand Prix last year. And then the paper really started to fly through that same turn 1. And I wonder if it occurs to either of these guys now that they're locked in a battle for the victory here in Portugal.
The whole inexplicable thing about that accident was why Senna ever just didn't let him go, because he was a lap down. But still, I mean, there it is. It's all done, gone, a year away now. Mansell again making up ground through that last bit of that long right-hander. Just here, the Honda seems to be just a little bit quicker as it accelerates out of the last bit of that long left-hander. And here the Ferrari doesn't have a great deal of advantage. Ooh, heavy traffic. Oh my Lord. Senna's heart now, of course, they're going to catch him up right into that long right-hander, which is not the best place in the world to go whizzing by even lap traffic.
Climbing here, then a quick right-hander. Just at the top of this hill, there's a house just outside that chain-link fence. There it is in the background. We went out there yesterday to watch practice, and the little Portuguese lady was out hanging her laundry as these million-dollar race cars went zinging by her fence at about 190 miles an hour. Patrese is off.
That's where Nigel had his little excursion, but back on the road again, never fear.
Running in 7th position with a big gap back to Alex Caffey in 8th, so I don't think Ricardo Patrese gave up a spot. There is a replay from Portuguese television. Well, he well and truly went straight on at that corner. He must have come ripping down that hill. Brakes have been a question this weekend, we should point out. Jean Alesi in particular had an enormous spin in the warm-up this morning when his brake pedal went to the floor. And Terry Boutsen with the Williams team, a car identical to that being driven by Ricardo Patrese, had to drive his qualifying laps on Friday, pumping up the brake pedal with his left foot the whole way around.
John Alesi letting Senna through there. Alesi not having the afternoon we thought he would after his practice and qualifying run. He, of course, may have the flu as well. Everybody else around here's got it. Capelli and Alex Caffey in front of Senna.
Capelli waved him by on the right side. Capelli, one of the remaining holdouts, one of the question marks regarding the driver lineup next year. Many people think he may leave the Leighton House team, but they don't know where he'll go. And, of course, the remaining key seat in Formula One right now is with the Williams team, the car driven by Terry Boutsen. Boutsen may be back. Capelli may go there. Nigel Mansell, it is rumored, may go there. You saw Alesi slide back to give Mansell room. There is Alex Caffey, who has been working with a very painful pinched nerve in his back as his car slams over the bumps here in Portugal. He had a chiropractor take a look at him, and ooh.
Not making life easy for Senna now. I was amazed that Caffey could hold off the Honda down that long front straightaway, but he did. And now, of course, he's holding him up in the corner.
Here's a view we haven't had. Following the corners through the cars through turn 4. Another right-hand flick, and now a very fast part of the racetrack. Once again, Senna not having an easy time getting by Caffey. It'll be Nigel Mansell's turn next. Dodging through traffic. Here comes Mansell, making quick work with the arrows of Alex Caffey. And once again, there is clear track between Mansell and the leader, Ayrton Senna, with 42 laps complete here in Portugal. Back in Portugal, where Nigel Mansell leads the yellow helmet of Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger, and Alain Prost. The 4 leading cars are in your picture. Senna looks to the inside. Nigel moves out to block and to get around the car of Pierluigi Martini. Smoke from Senna's tires.
Oh, Berger must have been so close there.
Now Berger tries Senna on the inside, his teammate, but then drops back.
And Prost, of course, meanwhile, with all that schmozzle, has caught right up with his group, having been languishing about 3 to 4 seconds down over the last 15 or 20 laps. But now is right back in the picture.
37-year-old Nigel Mansell, one of the oldest drivers in Formula One, leads the way in the Ferrari. This is 30-year-old Ayrton Senna. Looking for his second world championship in 3 years. Arguably, he could have won 3 straight, and no one has done that since Juan Manuel Fangio, I believe, back in the early 50s. After a bit of close dicing, Nigel Mansell pulled out a bit of a lead, but now Senna must worry about his teammate, the black helmet of Gerhard Berger behind him, and behind him, Senna's arch rival for the championship, Alain Prost. Nigel locking up a left front corner, heading into this uphill left-hander. There is Alain Prost, 16 points down, and the man he needs to catch is 2 cars ahead. Let's take another look at what happened to Nigel Mansell moments ago. Philippe Ayot on the outside of the blue Ligier comes across his bows, tags his left front wheel, and the Ligier goes on around. I am amazed that the Ligier spun and not the Ferrari. With all the weight on those rear wheels, you'd think the Ferrari front end would just be knocked sideways. A wheel goes tumbling but stays off the racetrack. Back to Alain Prost.
Well, except the thing was, it's the left front of Nigel, which had got all the weight on it because he's going on the right. And as he's turning right, it was the Ligier's right rear, which is unloaded, hit his left front. So the unloaded side of the Ligier was the one that took the belt, and of course it just spun it around because it was all the physics were working against it and working for Nigel. But it's very lucky that it didn't damage Nigel's suspension in any way, or doesn't appear to have done.
seemed to hit it squarely. You saw Philippe Ayot taking the long walk back, helmet in hand.
Of course, the wheel could have gone over the top of Nigel's wheel, which probably would have upended the Ligier and sent it right over that barrier.
The Armco is very close to the racetrack here in Portugal. As you can see to the left of your picture, there's not a whole lot of runoff area in some of these corners.
And the Armco also is very low in lots of places, too.
There is Philippe Ayot. Rumor has it
not to be driving for the Ligier next year. Philippe Ayot has had a bit of a checkered career and may in fact go into Group C racing next year.
Sports cars should get exciting next year. Philippe Ayot, one of the nicest guys in Formula One, usually wearing a smile, although he wasn't on that occasion. He's had a tough weekend here.
Prost put himself there coming through that last turn 11. Very fast exit, putting himself in a superb position.
Berger trying to block.
To get round Berger, which he is going to do.
Yes, into third place goes Alain Prost. Just behind Ayrton Senna, the man he is trying to overtake in the points. Thanks to our friends from RTP here in Portugal who are providing our pictures. They got that pass. And they will have a shot at another, I think, because Alain Prost is moving hard. Here he drives around Berger, who gave him a little bit of a hip feint. But then there was nothing he could do but hold his line and try to win a drag race into the first corner.
Nicola Larini in the other Ligier managing to stay in the thick of this fight for rather too long, I expect, for the main protagonist's liking. Is he going to let his countryman Prost through? Not without a fight.
These are very narrow racetracks, and to see two cars come through together is really breathtaking.
Now, after this little complex here, this is where Prost seems to be extremely quick to this turn 11. You just watch. Of course, we're not going to be able to see the gap now. Last time we could see the gap between him and Berger. And you see how close he is on the exit of that corner? Tremendous exit speed, probably 11 miles an hour, well, between 5 and 11 miles an hour more than the McLaren when he exits that corner.
Coming off that corner, I would guess at about 150, 160 miles an hour, adding about another 40 miles an hour the length of the straightaway. 59 laps complete, working lap 60, 11 remaining. As we watch Ayrton Senna with his rival Alain Prost right there.
Manuel Pirro in front of him now in the other Dallara. Pirro also has been told that he is not driving for that team next year, so there's another driver with a lot of question marks over his head.
Dallara will have the new V10 Judd engine next year. One of the many changes taking place in Formula One. More engines, new drivers, new alignments of existing drivers.
Now, what happened to Prost then? Why did he suddenly drop back?
Got Berger right behind him, getting around the Dallara. Manuel Pirro has put in many thousands of miles testing for the McLaren team until landing his Dallara drive. And right now, he is at the tail end of a great battle at the Grand Prix of Portugal. Coming around to complete lap 60, there will be 11 laps remaining. It is Mansell, Senna, Prost, Berger, Piquet, Nannini, Patrese, Alesi, Alex Caffey, and Aguri Suzuki. The arrows is off very, very hard. That was Alex Caffey in the number 10 car, who's been driving with a bad back this weekend. I don't think he did it any good right there.
Apparently his problem with his back started way back in Hungary, was it?
Earlier this year, no, much earlier than that. I can't recall the exact race, but he said he's been having problems when the car bounces, and given the suspensions on these cars, I think that's pretty understandable.
Or lack of suspension. Prost seems to be using up a little bit more road again now. Maybe he's run his second set of tires off. Not like him if he had.
Nigel Mansell remains the leader after a very eventful day. Let's get more from John in the pit lane.
Well, Bob and David, if you remember all the way back to March, we've driven and flown a few miles since then, but Caffey fell off his bicycle before the U.S. Grand Prix. Vern Schneider drove for the Arrows team for that event, did a very nice job. Caffey came back for Brazil and really wasn't fit. Vern Schneider did not drive the car, and Caffey DNF'd because of that bad back. Falling off your bicycle, 190 miles an hour these people go without blinking an eye, and he falls off a two-wheel bicycle, and the injury has followed him all throughout the championship.
Pierluigi Martini one-upped him in the next race at Brazil. He fell down climbing down the stairs from the motorhome of his team and cracked a bone in his arm.
I tell you, it's a dangerous sport. It's not easy out here, folks.
Alain Prost trying to close in on Ayrton Senna, hoping to get ahead of him and pick up a few precious points in the World Championship. He is down 16 with 4 races to go, including this one. 62 laps complete, 9 remain. A red flag. A red flag. Alex Caffey's incident must be more serious than we initially suspected, and the race will be stopped and perhaps concluded, as Nigel Mansell apparently believes, raising his arm in victory, or perhaps to tell the cars behind him he has slowed down.
Well, at 62 out of 71, I would say that that's over.
Alex Caffey's still in the car, but moving around. Perhaps he has injured himself.
Well, I think that they're going to have to extricate him from the car. He seems to be all right. His top half of his body is all right. He's looking in fairly good shape. But if they're going to have to get him out of there, they obviously can't work on that car and have the racing cars racing by at the same time.
And as we speak, Caffey climbs from the car. But the safety car was called for because he has evidently hurt his legs.
This is that right-hander where you and I were standing the other day, that quick rising right-hander.
Very quick.
And very close to the road, the guardrail there. In fact, it's just behind that guardrail where the lady was hanging out her washing.
Well, the drivers climb from the cars. We'll check very carefully, but it would appear that we have had another dramatic ending to the Grand Prix of Portugal. Stay with us. That Alex Caffey will be just fine after his huge accident has brought the Portuguese Grand Prix to a conclusion 10 laps short of its scheduled 71. With his 16th career Grand Prix win, Nigel Mansell ties countryman Sterling Moss for 8th on the all-time list. Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost finished 2nd and 3rd. Senna thereby fattens his points lead over Prost from 16 to 18 with 3 events to go. Our next stop on the Grand Prix Tour will be the Grand Prix of Spain next Sunday, live at 8.